All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a topic that's, well, a little bit old school, but
Mm.
still powers a huge chunk of the world's essential systems.
Mhm.
Mainframe testing. You're here because you want to grasp the essentials of this specialized area fast, so let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
Imagine you're tasked with, testing software
Mm.
on a system that handles millions of transactions every day.
Yeah,
That's the world of mainframes, and that's what we're diving into today.
that's right. And despite all the buzz about cloud and, all that modern tech, mainframes are still the heavy lifters
Yeah,
in sectors like finance and insurance and government,
right.
where, reliability and security are just paramount.
So we're not talking about, testing the latest app. We're
Right.
talking about systems that handle things like bank transactions, airline reservations, stuff
Mm.
that just can't afford to go down.
Exactly.
Right.
Mainframe testing is all about ensuring those systems can handle the pressure.
Yep.
And one thing that might surprise you is that you're often testing directly against the deployed code, not some isolated copy.
Wait, hang on. Testing directly on deployed code?
Hmm.
Isn't that risky? I mean, what if something goes wrong?
It can be, which is why thorough testing is so crucial,
Yeah,
but it also means you're testing in the real environment
right.
with all its complexities, which gives you a much more accurate picture of how the system will actually perform.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of the specifics of mainframes themselves.
Sure.
What are some of the key attributes that make them unique, and how do those attributes impact testing?
One of the most important is virtual storage. It's
Okay.
it's like a magician's trick, allowing the mainframe to use disk space as if it were RAM.
Okay.
This lets it handle way more data than physically possible,
Right.
which is essential for those massive transaction volumes
Yeah.
you'll be testing against.
So it's like the mainframe is playing tricks on itself to access more memory? That's wild. I'm guessing this impacts how we test memory usage.
Absolutely, yeah. You need to understand how virtual storage works to properly assess um, performance and resource utilization during testing.
Got it.
Yeah.
What else should we know about these mainframe quirks?
Well, there's multi-programming,
Okay.
where the mainframe runs multiple programs seemingly simultaneously.
Right.
Think of it like a master juggler keeping several balls in the air at once.
So it's not just about power, it's about efficiency too.
Hmm.
I bet this multitasking ability makes testing quite a bit more complicated.
It does, yeah, because you need to make sure those multiple programs aren't interfering with each other and that they're all sharing resources fairly.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there's batch processing, right?
Right.
I've heard that term thrown around a lot in the mainframe world.
Right. Batch processing is like a factory line, processing large volumes of data in batches
Okay.
without any human interaction.
Right.
You might have a batch job that processes overnight, for example.
Right. Crunching through millions of transactions
Right.
to update accounts or generate reports.
So we need to make sure those batch jobs are running smoothly and producing the expected output.
Exactly.
What about users interacting with the system in real time? How do we test for that?
That's where online testing comes in.
Okay.
It's similar to testing a website or any interactive application.
Right.
You're focusing on how users interact with the system's screens,
Mm-hmm.
making sure the flow is intuitive and the functionality is flawless.
Got it.
And a key part of that is CICS,
Okay.
or Customer Information Control System,
Right. CCS.
which manages these interactive transactions on the mainframe.
I've seen that acronym, but never really understood what it did.
Right.
So it's basically the traffic cop
Yeah.
directing all those real-time user interactions,
Mhm.
making sure everything runs smoothly.
Exactly.
Okay, knowing these quirks of mainframes helps us understand why testing is so unique.
For example, with batch processing, we're not just checking if a single action works, but how a whole sequence of tasks performs over time.
Right.
What are the different ways we approach testing on mainframes?
Well, you have two main categories:
Okay.
manual testing and automated testing.
All right.
Let's start with the manual side.
Okay, let's roll up our sleeves and get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
When we're talking about manual testing, what does that actually look like in the mainframe world?
There are two main types:
Okay.
batch job testing and online testing.
Okay.
Batch job testing is all about checking the results of those large data processing jobs.
Right.
Imagine you've got a batch job that updates millions of customer records overnight.
Mm-hmm.
You need to verify the data in the output files and databases to ensure everything was processed correctly.
So it's a lot of data analysis, making
Right.
sure those massive jobs are producing the right outcomes.
Exactly.
On the other hand, online testing is more about simulating how a user interacts with the system.
Right.
Imagine testing an ATM transaction.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be entering data on screens,
Yeah.
navigating through menus,
Right.
and verifying that the system responds correctly at each step.
Exactly.
So batch testing is like checking under the hood,
Mhm.
while online testing is all about the user experience.
That's a great way to put it.
All right, so we've got our hands dirty with the manual testing approaches.
Okay.
Now let's talk about the tools of the trade.
Sure.
You mentioned automated testing earlier.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways we can make mainframe testing more efficient?
Well, there are a few key players in the automation game.
Okay.
REXX is a powerful scripting language that can streamline a lot of those repetitive tasks.
Okay.
It might have a bit of a learning curve, but once you master it, you can automate everything from test data generation to result analysis.
So REXX is like our secret weapon for making mainframe testing less tedious.
It is, yeah.
What other tools do we have in our arsenal?
You mentioned JCL earlier. Right. JCL, or Job Control Language, is what you use to tell the mainframe what to do.
Okay.
Think of it as the instructions you give the system to run your tests.
Got it.
We won't dive deep into coding here,
Okay.
but knowing JCL is essential for any mainframe tester.
Okay, JCL. Got it.
Hmm.
It's like the language we use to communicate with the mainframe.
Exactly.
What else?
Then you have tools like SBUFI,
Okay.
which is used for interacting with DB2 databases.
All right.
It lets you execute SQL queries and manipulate data,
Okay.
which is essential for testing database-related functionality.
SPUFI, another acronym to add to the list.
Right.
But it sounds like a powerful tool for working with data on the mainframe.
It is, yeah.
And when it comes to automating functional tests,
Yeah,
tools like QTP are invaluable.
absolutely.
They allow you to record and play back user interactions, so you can run those tests over and over again without having to do everything manually.
Exactly.
Okay, so QTP is our time-saving friend for those repetitive functional tests.
It is, yeah.
This is all starting to make sense. So we've got the tools, we've got the testing approaches.
Right.
Now let's get a little more concrete.
Okay.
Can you walk us through a real-world example to illustrate how this all comes together in practice?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's imagine we're testing a member enrollment module for a large insurance company.
Okay.
This module receives data from two sources:
Yeah.
an online enrollment screen
Okay.
and offline paper applications.
Okay, so we've got two different paths for data entry, both leading to the same mainframe system.
Exactly.
This sounds like a recipe for some interesting testing challenges.
It is, yeah.
It means we need to employ both online and batch testing approaches to ensure everything is working harmoniously.
Right.
On the online side,
Yeah.
we'd test the enrollment screen like we'd test any website, validating the data entered and making sure it flows correctly to the database.
Right.
We'd also want to make sure the application is interacting correctly with CICS and that those transactions are being managed properly.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
So it's all about simulating how a real user would interact with the system, making sure they have a smooth experience and their data is handled correctly.
Exactly.
Now, for the offline enrollment process, things get a bit more complex.
Right.
This is where batch testing comes into play.
Exactly.
Remember those batch jobs we talked about earlier? They're the key to processing all those paper applications.
Right, because we're dealing with potentially huge volumes of data coming in from those offline sources.
How do we tackle that from a testing perspective?
We design a series of batch jobs, each with a specific task,
Okay.
to process and validate the offline enrollment data.
Okay.
For example, the first job might validate the data for basic errors, like ensuring the format is correct or that there are no invalid characters.
Right.
Then the next job might check for consistency based on business rules.
Right.
Does the member's zip code fall within the service area of their chosen plan?
Right. Right.
That kind of thing.
Okay, so we're moving beyond basic data validation and into the realm of business logic,
Right.
making sure the data not only looks right,
Yeah,
but also makes sense from a business perspective.
exactly.
I'm guessing this is where things can get tricky.
They can.
What happens if we encounter errors during this batch processing?
Well, that's where those dreaded OBENs come in.
OBENs. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one.
Okay.
I've heard the term, but never really understood what it means.
An ABEND, short for abnormal end, is basically a program crash.
Okay.
It's what happens when the program encounters an error that it can't handle,
Right.
and it terminates unexpectedly.
So it's like the mainframe's way of saying,
Yeah.
help, I can't do this.
Exactly.
What kind of things can cause these abends?
Oh, all sorts of things.
Okay.
One of the most common is the SC7 abend, which often signals a data exception.
Right.
This could be caused by trying to use data in the wrong way, like performing a calculation on a text field.
So it's like trying to add apples and oranges. The data types don't match.
Exactly.
And then there's the SCEC37 abend,
Right.
which usually points to storage allocation issues.
Mm-hmm.
This happens when a program tries to grab more memory than the system has available.
Right.
Kind of like trying to stuff a suitcase that's already overflowing.
Exactly.
Okay, so memory management is crucial on mainframes.
It is.
Got it.
Yeah.
Are there any other common abends we should be aware of?
There are a few more,
Okay.
but those are two of the most frequent offenders you'll encounter during testing.
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
So we've got these batch jobs processing data, and we need to be on the lookout for these abends
Right.
that can derail the whole process.
Exactly.
What happens when we find an abend? What do we do?
Well, that's where the real detective work begins. You need to figure out what caused the abend and how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
This often involves analyzing job output,
Right.
checking system logs,
Okay.
and sometimes even digging into the code itself.
Sounds like a challenge,
It can be.
but also kind of exciting, like solving a puzzle.
It can be both.
Okay, this has been an awesome crash course in mainframe testing.
Great.
We've covered a lot of ground, mainframe attributes, testing approaches,
Right.
tools of the trade,
Right.
real-world examples,
Mhm.
and even those pesky abends.
Yeah.
What else do we need to know to master this domain?
Well, we've only scratched the surface.
Right.
There's still a lot more to explore, like the specific steps involved in the mainframe testing process and how to handle some of the common challenges you'll face along the way.
Sounds like we've got a lot more to unpack. Stay tuned, listeners, because we're going to dive even deeper into the world of mainframe testing in part 2 of this deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. We're picking up right where we left off, exploring the fascinating world of mainframe testing.
Right.
Last time we talked about some of the unique aspects of mainframes, different testing approaches, and even those heart-stopping abends.
Right.
But as they say, the journey has just begun.
That's right. There's still plenty to uncover.
Okay.
Should we delve into the mainframe testing process itself?
Absolutely. Let's break it down step by step. Imagine I'm like a brand new mainframe tester.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing I need to do?
Well, before you even write a single test, you need to understand the system inside and out.
Okay.
What are the business requirements?
Mm-hmm.
What are the technical specifications?
Right.
What are the potential risks and vulnerabilities?
So it's like building a house. You need a solid blueprint before you start laying bricks.
Precisely. Once you have a good understanding of the system, you can start designing your test cases.
Yeah.
This is where you define what you're going to test, how you're going to test it,
Right.
and what the expected results should be.
So it's all about planning and preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. What happens next?
Next comes the fun part,
Okay.
executing those test cases.
All right.
This is where you actually run the test and see how the system behaves.
Right.
You'll be interacting with the system, entering data, running batch jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and analyzing the results.
This is where those tools we talked about earlier come into play, right?
Exactly.
REXX, SPUFI, QTP.
Mm-hmm.
They're all here to make our lives easier.
They are, yeah.
And remember those abends we discussed?
Right.
Well, you're likely to encounter a few during this execution phase.
You are, yeah.
Oh, great.
It happens.
So we're running our tests, fingers crossed,
Mhm.
hoping we don't run into any of those program crashing abends. But
Right.
let's be realistic.
Right.
They're probably going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
What are some tips for handling those abends when they inevitably pop up?
Well, one helpful tool is Error Assist.
Okay.
It's like a detective's handbook,
Right.
providing detailed information on various abends and their potential causes.
Okay.
You can look up the abend code, see what might have triggered it,
Okay.
and get some guidance on how to fix it.
So it's like having a mainframe whisperer by our side,
Exactly.
helping us decode those cryptic error messages.
Mm-hmm.
Any other strategies for tackling those testing challenges?
Absolutely. When it comes to batch job events,
Yeah.
one thing to remember is that a max CC of 0 doesn't always mean everything is fine.
Wait, what? I thought a max CC0 meant the job was successful.
It's a common misconception.
Okay.
AMAX CC0 simply means the job completed without any execution errors.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily mean the results are correct.
Right.
It could be that the job ran perfectly, but didn't produce the output you're expecting.
Right.
Always verify those results.
So it's like getting a perfect score on a test without actually understanding the material. The execution might have been flawless, but the outcome is still wrong.
Exactly.
Got it. Any other words of wisdom for our aspiring mainframe testers?
When you're working with DB2 tables through SBUFI,
Okay.
make it a habit to disable autocommit.
Okay.
This prevents accidental updates to the database.
Right.
Imagine running a test and accidentally wiping out production data
Oh, yeah.
because you forgot to turn off autocommit. Not a good situation.
That would be a disaster.
It would.
So it's like having a safety net to protect those precious data assets.
Exactly.
Excellent advice.
Thank you.
Now, besides those pesky abends, what other challenges might we face during mainframe testing?
One of the biggest is dealing with incomplete or unclear requirements.
Okay.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces.
Right.
If you don't know exactly what the system's supposed to do. It's going to be very difficult to design effective test cases.
I can see how that would be frustrating.
It is.
So clear communication with the business analysts and developers is key.
It is, yeah.
What other hurdles might we encounter?
Another challenge is data setup.
Right.
Mainframes often store mountains of data.
Yeah.
And finding the specific records you need for testing can be like searching for a needle in a haystack.
That sounds tedious.
It can be.
Are there any tools or techniques that can help us with this data finding mission?
Absolutely. There are tools that can help you search and extract data from mainframe systems.
Okay.
And there are also techniques for generating test data that meets your specific requirements.
So we've got tools and techniques to help us wrangle that data. What else?
Let's not forget about those tricky JCL setups.
Right.
Getting those JCL statements just right is crucial for ensuring your tests run smoothly.
Right.
One wrong character can bring the whole thing crashing down.
JCL can be a bit of a beast to tame.
You're telling me?
And then there are those unexpected curveballs that life likes to throw at us.
Right.
Like those last-minute ad hoc testing requests or sudden changes in scope.
Exactly.
Yes, those unexpected curveballs. It's all about flexibility and adaptability, isn't it?
Precisely. You need to be able to adjust your plans and priorities on the fly.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the step-by-step testing process to the tools and techniques that can help us along the way.
Right.
And even those frustrating challenges we might encounter.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to know to truly master the art of mainframe testing?
Well, there's one more critical aspect we haven't discussed yet.
Okay.
Performance testing.
Right, performance testing.
Remember, mainframes are all about handling huge volumes of data and transactions. If the system is slow or inefficient, it can have a major impact on the business.
Right.
That's where performance testing comes in.
Performance testing, right? We need to make sure these systems can handle the heat. Let's dive into that in part 3 of this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned, listeners, because we're going to explore the world of mainframe performance testing and uncover the secrets to ensuring these systems are running at peak efficiency. Welcome back, deep divers. We're in the final stretch of our exploration into the world of mainframe testing.
Right.
We've covered a lot of ground, from those unique mainframe quirks to the step-by-step testing process, and even those troubleshooting nightmares, abends.
Right.
But there's one crucial piece of the puzzle we haven't tackled yet: performance testing.
That's right, and it's a big one.
Yeah.
Remember, these mainframe systems are the workhorses of critical industries.
Right.
They need to be able to handle massive amounts of data and transactions without breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
That's where performance testing comes in.
Okay, so we're not just making sure the system works, we're making sure it works fast. What exactly does performance testing involve in the mainframe world?
It's all about pushing the system to its limits and beyond.
Okay.
We want to see how it behaves under heavy load, identify any bottlenecks, and make sure it can scale to meet future demands.
Okay.
Imagine you're testing a bank system on payday when everyone is trying to access their accounts at the same time.
Yeah.
That's the kind of scenario we need to simulate.
Wow, that sounds intense. So how do we actually go about simulating those real-world scenarios?
We use we use specialized tools that can generate massive amounts of virtual users and transactions,
Okay.
putting the system under stress.
Right.
These tools allow us to mimic, thousands, even millions of users
So,
accessing the system simultaneously,
yeah.
pushing it to its breaking point.
So it's like creating a virtual stampede to see if the system can withstand the pressure.
Exactly. And while the stampede is happening,
Right.
we're monitoring key performance metrics like response times, transaction throughput, and resource utilization.
Okay.
We want to see how these metrics change as the load increases, looking for any signs of degradation or instability.
So we're looking for those warning signs, those red flags that indicate the system might be struggling to keep up.
Exactly.
What happens if we find those red flags? What do we do?
That's where the analysis and optimization comes in.
Okay.
We need to dig into the results,
Mm-hmm.
identify the root cause of any performance bottlenecks,
Right.
and recommend solutions.
Okay.
It might involve, optimizing code, tuning database queries, or even upgrading hardware.
It sounds like a complex process requiring a deep understanding of both the system and the tools involved.
It is, but it's also incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
When you successfully identify and resolve a performance bottleneck,
Right.
it's like you've given the system a much needed boost,
Yeah.
allowing it to run smoothly and efficiently.
So we've talked about performance testing, but I have a feeling there's even more to this mainframe testing story, right?
Right.
What other challenges might we face, and what does the future hold for this specialized field?
You're right. There's always more to learn in the world of mainframes.
Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges we face is the shrinking pool of experienced mainframe professionals.
Oh, okay.
As these systems age, many of the experts who built and maintained them are, they're retiring,
Right.
taking their valuable knowledge with them.
That's a problem. Who is going to keep those systems running if we don't have the expertise?
That's why it's so important to attract and train the next generation of mainframe professionals.
Right.
We need people who are curious, adaptable, and eager to learn the ins and outs of these powerful systems.
It's like passing the torch to a new generation of guardians, ensuring those critical systems continue to operate flawlessly.
Exactly.
What about the future of mainframe testing itself? Any predictions on what's coming down the pipeline?
Well, I think we'll see an even greater emphasis on automation.
Okay.
We're already using tools to automate many aspects of testing,
Right.
but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
Imagine AI-powered tools that can analyze code, identify potential vulnerabilities, and even generate test cases automatically.
That's like having a virtual testing assistant by our side, constantly learning and evolving to make our lives easier.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I imagine there would be challenges too, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
We'd need to make sure these AI-powered tools are accurate, reliable,
Yeah.
and aligned with our testing goals. It's like entrusting our testing to a highly advanced but still learning apprentice.
It's a brave new world of possibilities, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds.
Me too.
Well, folks, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of mainframe testing. We've journeyed through the core concepts, explored different testing approaches, tackled those pesky abends, and even ventured into the realm of performance testing.
It's been quite a journey.
So if you're fascinated by the challenge of ensuring the quality and reliability of these critical systems, the world of mainframe testing might just be the perfect place for you.
I think so.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one pioneering those AI-powered testing solutions of the future.
The future is bright for those who dare to dive into the mainframe world.
And on that note, we'll bring this episode of The Deep Dive to a close.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, and happy testing.